I've got to tell you guys about something, but we need to go somewhere quiet. This is Brooklyn, there's no telling who might hear. There's a drummer that haunts my nightmares. Just a sec. That's better. It all started 2 weeks ago. I did this Drumeo time challenge thing. I thought I was on top of it. Pretty easy to follow. So I go to post on Instagram and I see that another drummer has beat me to it. Who is this guy? His perfect pocket, his flawless eighths, his amazing audio? Jacob Evans.
Hey, what's up? Jacob Evans here.
As I was saying. Anyway, before it's too late, I have to tell you, do not search him on YouTube. Do not follow him on Instagram at Jacob Evans Drums. No, don't put that up on the screen. What are you doing? My only hope is that I can keep this protector of pocket, this guardian of groove, in the dark so that no one knows about his unstoppable flow. Then, I will have the only... Wait, what's that?
Hey, Nate.
No! How did you get there?
Hey, I'm not up to anything sketchy. I'm just here to bring the groove to the people.
Oh my God, guys, he's taking over. It's a channel takeover.
Relax. I just thought the viewers of your channel would appreciate a pocket groove lesson. Besides, you invited me here.
I did? Oh, that's right, I did. Curses!
Hey, I can just go back to practicing.
No, you're here already. Might as well show the people some groove.
He gets anxious if he hasn't eaten before noon. Anyway, thanks so much, Nate, for having me on to chat about arguably one of the most important elements of being a drummer and being a proficient drummer, which is groove and pocket and time. So those are some things I want to cover in today's lesson. Now, if you're watching this channel, you no doubt have an interest in becoming a better drummer, right? Now, wherever you sit on the spectrum or however you view your own level of drumming, you may look to other players and other more advanced, high-level musicians and understand that there is a difference or a discrepancy between where you're at and where they are at. Now, one of the things I really appreciate about Nate and his channel is quantifying what those elements are. Because if you know what those elements are, well, then you can, you know that you can work on them and you know that you can sort of become a better player and become the player that you want to be. Now, especially if you're sort of a more intermediate level drummer, you've gone through all the beginner stuff, you've gone through, the basics, right? But as you get better, it can be more and more difficult to actually figure out what those differences are, or know exactly what it is that you should be working on, to progress and to move to the next level. Now, I think one thing that's very common is we look at players that we admire and that we want to, play like, and it's easy to think that the thing that separates them are these really sort of outlier concepts, like maybe, having really hectic chops or, being able to play in odd times or whatever. But it's actually the thing that separates those really high level players is a really strong understanding of the fundamentals and a really firm grasp on, what those fundamentals are. Now, if you look at pocket or time, or groove or feel, they're all sort of branches of the same tree, and they all imply some degree of consistency. Now, this consistency is absolutely one of those foundational skills that really will have a massive impact on your playing ability, but also your ability to flow and connect the ideas that you have in your head with your instrument. What's super important to understand about these skills or this skill set is that it's learnable and it's teachable. It's not something that you're either born with or some people are just blessed with this beautiful groove. It's a skill that we can cultivate and that we can improve. Now, one of the things that connected Nate and I more recently was this kind of Drumeo metronome timing challenge. And it's very interesting to see them post this because this is something that Nate has been talking about for a very long time on his channel and something that I have utilized to a great deal of success with my own practice, but also in my teaching and what I teach my students. So this concept of actually using the metronome as a tool for improving your groove or your pocket, your feel, is a great one because it's by far the best tool that we have to improve these skills. Now, you may have experienced, at some point, maybe you sit down to, play along to a record that feels really good, like a James Brown funk record or something, and you spend some time practicing with it, and after a certain amount of time, you're sort of left like hoping that some of the funk, so to speak, has sort of rubbed off on you, right? But it's difficult to tell. We don't have this sort of quantifiable metric that we can actually measure to know that your time is improving. But we can do that with the metronome if we use the metronome in the right way. And, if we think about our time or our groove as really an oral skill, as something that you hear and something you can interpret, right? We can use a metronome to really strengthen how accurately we can hear time, which will really allow us to express it in a more organic, but more importantly, a more consistent way.
Okay, so let's summarize. It's easier to tell what to do when you're at the steep part of the learning curve, but harder as you get better. A lot of us confuse that slowed progress with simply lacking talent, but it's more an issue of simply not knowing what to do. And if we assume that Clyde Stubblefield beat is just going to enter your playing by osmosis, well, there are more direct ways. But I want to ask Jacob this. Give us the goods, bro! Like, not Jacob. Jacob. Not Jacob. Jacob. So subtle stuff, all good. Metronome aside, how do you get that thing?
Okay, so there's two main sides of the coin. The first side is what we just talked about, right? The sort of internal metronomic time. The other side of the coin is actually the physicality.
Wait, hang on. You mean to tell me you're not going to do any drum exercises?
No, I mean, I thought it was clear from what I was saying that I didn't really mean...
People are watching. This is super awkward. People have watched this far expecting some quick licks or a flurry.
But Nate, let me ask you, is another quick lick or an exercise really the thing that's holding people back from playing better grooves?
I don't know, what is this, a therapy session? It's YouTube. People want exercises, so we give them X.
But what if there was another way? What if it was more about your mindset?
Okay, fair point.
Tell you what, let me drop some knowledge, and if you still feel like you need a lick or a feel at the end of it, you won't.
I guess, but...
Is he gone yet? Jeez. So as I was saying, there's sort of two sides to this coin. The first is that internal clock, knowing that you're in time and being able to hear that. The other side of the coin is the actual physical expression of that internalized time. And, the main influencing factor here is going to be your technique and your ergonomics at the kit, right? Your actual mechanics as to how you're playing the drums. This has a massive influence over your sound, the kind of sound you're actually pulling out of the kit, but more importantly, your ability to actually play with the consistency required to lay down a solid groove. Now, one thing you can say for certain about anybody that you hear laying down a solid groove is that there's a hell of a lot of confidence behind it, or a hell of a lot of intent, okay? Now, something that is really important when it comes to your mindset behind practicing any exercise to do with, grooves or internal time or mechanics or anything like that, or basically anything that you're going to do in the practice room, is it's very important that you play it with the same intent that you would in a realistic musical situation or on a gig, right? It's important to understand that the way you sound on the drums is a product of not just what you practice, but how. So it's very important when you're thinking about these skills, especially the two sides of the coin, you know, we've got the metronome and the physicality, is that when you're deploying this skill, both in the practice room, but also on the stage, is that you're playing it with confidence and you're playing it with that intent. Part of developing these skills is what breeds the confidence for you to be able to do this more consistently. Competence breeds confidence. And what happens when you develop these skills is it puts you in this sort of upward spiral, meaning, you know, you start working on these skills, and then when you're in a gig situation or you're playing music, you sort of tend to play more confidently because you've got the skills to back it up. And then that in turn sort of puts you in this feedback loop where you're sort of getting good feedback from the other people that you play with, which in turn sort of feeds your confidence, which makes your time better because you're sort of playing with more confidence, and it puts you in this upward spiral that's really quite difficult to get out of. And you know, part of this is really allowing you to play with the flow and the fluidity of ideas that you have in your head without having to worry about all these things. And it really makes playing music just that much more enjoyable when you can do it well and you have the confidence to actually express your own ideas in a musical way. So really important at the end of the day to make sure that when you're spending that time in the practice room, that you're really thinking about how is this actually going to function in a musical situation, and then practicing that with the same level of intent and commitment as you would on the stage. So you're not convinced?
Yeah, I guess I never considered it that way, especially the part about the importance of mindset. Anyway, guys, if you want to check out Jacob's channel, here's his info. And I've also linked his channel below. Do me a favor and do yourself a favor and give him a sub. And I'll see you next week. Is he gone? Okay. Gotta get some exercises.
Hey.
I thought you were gone! All right.